General advice warning. This information is of a general nature only and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. You should consider the product disclosure statement issued by Plantation Capital Limited in deciding whether to acquire an interest in the Passive Income USA Commercial Property Fund. Past performance is not a guarantee of future performance. No earnings estimates are made. Part 4. Why commercial property and why now? Look, it's no coincidence that commercial property has been chosen, and here are some reasons why I believe it makes a superior investment over residential property. The first is ease of management. Look, we're going to be buying property in another country, and although we'll have systems and teams in place to manage that property, why set ourselves up for unnecessary heartache? Buying commercial property is a lot easier to manage than buying residential property, and there are far fewer things that can go wrong. The second reason is that in commercial property, the rent received is usually plus outgoings, whereas with residential property, it is inclusive of outgoings. So if you've got a commercial property and you've got to pay property taxes, insurance, etc., they're usually costs that are passed on to the tenant. But in residential property, they are costs borne by the owner. And so $1 of commercial property is worth more than $1 of residential property, because $1 of commercial property rent is plus outgoings. $1 of residential rent is before outgoings. We also have tremendous opportunities being a cash buyer in the commercial property market. I don't know if you are aware of this, but in the residential property market, particularly at the lower end, which is where I was buying a lot of my properties, there are a lot of buyers in that market now, particularly at the sort of $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 price range. And being a cash buyer at that lower value isn't any real strategic advantage. But being a cash buyer, buying properties valued between $1 and $5 million, where there's fewer competition, definitely is. We also have a market niche that we want to target properties that are too big for mum and dad investors, particularly if they are struggling to borrow money to buy, but too small for the institutions to worry about. That is going to be our market niche. So why now then? Well, conditions are improving. You've read that in the product disclosure statement in the experts report about how things seem to be stabilising, and that as and if the US economy improves and access to finance frees up, then that will be the precursor to a return to growth in the commercial property market. The second reason is that there is also rental demand strengthening. So we're not trying to pick the bottom of the market here. There are already indicative reasons to believe that the bottom has already happened, although not calling it, and that things are on the way up rather than on the way down. Third reason is that the Australian dollar remains high, and while the Australian dollar remains high, we have this great opportunity with superior buying power. You may remember this graph from an earlier webinar where we looked at what has happened to the Australian-US exchange rate since it was floated in 1983, and we're way over here. Yes, it did get up towards $1.10, but even where it is at the time of this recording is still superior to any time just about over the past 30 years. So we're still in the midst of a great buying opportunity. So a session conclusion. We have a time-sensitive opportunity. I'm just going to be so disappointed if people don't jump on board and then come up to me in 3 years' time and say, "Oh, Steve, I just regret so much that I never jumped on board here." While there are no guarantees, in my opinion, and from what I've seen in over a decade of investing in Australia and around the world, is that stars have aligned here. We've got buying power, we've got low prices, we have an opportunity to pick up high-quality assets. It just seems like an opportunity too good to miss. And if I was being honest, if I didn't have to include you in on it, I probably wouldn't. But it's too big an opportunity for me to be able to unearth all by myself. And so I often say real estate's a we investment. I'd like to invite you to join with me and to participate in it. US prices are low. The Australian dollar is high. The market's showing signs of recovery. That is why commercial property is chosen above residential property, and why now is the time to invest. If you have any questions or need further help, just get in contact with me in the office in business hours, 038892 3800, or email me, steve@PropertyInvesting.com.